Welcome to an ancient world of mystery and intrigue, where a curse from an Egyptian pharaoh was believed to have claimed over 20 lives. This is not a tale spun from the threads of fantasy, but a chilling chapter in our own human history. Imagine, if you will, the year is 1922. A team of intrepid archaeologists, led by the dauntless Howard Carter, pry open the final resting place of King Tutankhamun, a boy king who reigned over Egypt in the 18th dynasty. Little did they know, they were stepping into a narrative that would echo through the annals of time. A veiled threat was etched into the annals of ancient Egyptian texts, a warning that promised a fate worse than death to those who dared disturb the sacred slumber of royal mummies. It whispered of a disease so insidious, so baffling that no doctor could diagnose it, let alone cure it. This was the Pharaoh's curse, a specter of doom that loomed over the hearts of those brave, or perhaps foolhardy enough, to venture into the tomb. The curse was not an idle threat, a tale to frighten children or the superstitious. No, it was a prophecy that seemed to fulfill itself with terrifying precision. The first victim, archaeologist Howard Carter, the first person to step foot in the tomb, succumbed to an untraceable illness, fueling the belief in the curse. He was the first to penetrate the tomb's millennia-old silence, the first to gaze upon the untouched treasures of a long-forgotten pharaoh, and tragically, he was the first to pay the price of that audacity. His demise marked the beginning of a series of strange and untimely deaths, a grim procession that seemed to lend credence to the whispered warnings of the pharaoh's curse. But was there more to it than superstition and coincidence? Could there be a rational explanation behind this enigma? We'll delve deeper into this mystery in our next segment. Stay tuned. The curse wasn't just a product of superstitious minds. There was indeed a biological reason behind the deaths. Enter Ross Fellows, a scientist who dared to delve deeper into the shadows of this ancient mystery. Not one to be swayed by tales of supernatural curses, Fellows embarked on a journey to unearth a more tangible explanation. His research led him to a startling revelation. The cause of the pharaoh's curse was not some mystical force, but rather a deadly cocktail of natural elements and toxic waste. Fellows' study unveiled an insidious presence lurking within the sealed vault of King Tutankhamun's tomb. The cause of the deaths was radiation poisoning, a silent and invisible killer. This was no ordinary radiation either. It stemmed from natural elements containing uranium, a substance known for its radioactive properties. But the danger didn't stop there. The sealed vault was also found to house toxic waste, deliberately placed within its walls. This deadly duo of uranium and toxic waste created an environment ripe for radiation poisoning. Unwittingly, those who dared to disturb the pharaoh's rest were exposing themselves to this lethal hazard. The tomb was, in effect, a ticking time bomb. Its deadly payload released the moment its seal was broken. The victims, including the renowned archaeologist Howard Carter, succumbed to illnesses that can be traced back to radiation exposure. Carter, the first person to set foot inside Tut's tomb, battled with a form of cancer that could have been triggered by this radiation. The tomb, it seems, was indeed cursed, but not in the supernatural manner that has been suggested by some ancient Egyptologists. It was a curse, not of divine wrath, but of human ignorance, an ignorance of the dangers hidden within the tomb and of the deadly power of radiation. The curse didn't just claim one life, it claimed several. The aftermath of the opening of King Tut's tomb was like a domino effect, with one tragedy following another. The victims of the alleged curse were not just limited to those who entered the tomb, but also extended to those associated with the excavation. The first to fall was Howard Carter, the man who had the honor, or perhaps the misfortune, of being the first to step inside the boy king's final resting place. The renowned archaeologist succumbed to a long battle with Hodgkin's lymphoma, a cancer that affects the body's immune system. Some speculate that radiation poisoning from the toxic elements within the tomb may have triggered his illness. Lord Carnarvon, a financial backer of the excavation, was another victim. He died from blood poisoning merely 5 months after the tomb's discovery, following the infection of a mosquito bite aggravated by a razor cut. His death added an eerie credibility to the curse, sending a chill down the spine of the superstitious. The curse didn't stop at humans either. Carnarvon's son reported that his favorite dog howled and dropped dead abruptly, right around the time the tomb was opened. This unexplainable event further fueled rumors of the curse's potency. The list of victims grew longer over the years. Many involved in the excavation succumbed to various ailments such as asphyxia, stroke, diabetes, heart failure, pneumonia, poisoning, malaria, and even excessive X-ray exposure. Most of these individuals passed away in their 50s, a relatively young age considering the life expectancy of the era. One particularly notable victim was British Egyptologist Arthur Weigall. He was present during the tomb's opening and was accused of inciting the myth of the curse. Ironically, he himself died of cancer at the age of 54. Each of these deaths added another layer to the mystery of the Pharaoh's curse. Despite the myriad of deaths associated with the excavation, the true nature of the curse remained enigmatic. Was it a supernatural phenomenon, or was there a scientific explanation behind it? The answer, as we'll discuss in the next segment, might surprise you. The curse wasn't a product of the supernatural, but rather a result of exposure to lethal substances. Yes, you heard it right. It was science, not specters, that was the real culprit behind the so-called Pharaoh's curse. The eerie deaths of over 20 people who entered the tomb of King Tutankhamun were not due to some ancient Egyptian hex, but to something far more tangible and, in a way, even more chilling. It all comes down to the substances found within the tomb itself. These substances, natural elements containing uranium and toxic waste, were deliberately placed within the sealed vault. Over time, they would have become potent sources of radiation. And as we know, prolonged exposure to radiation can have devastating effects on the human body. Take the case of Howard Carter, the first person to step foot inside Tut's tomb after it was sealed more than 100 years ago. Carter, an archaeologist of great renown, eventually succumbed to a particular form of cancer known as Hodgkin's lymphoma. This disease, which targets the body's germ-fighting immune system, has been linked to radiation poisoning. Carter's fate was, in essence, sealed the moment he entered the tomb. And he wasn't the only one. Others who dared to enter the tomb experienced a similar fate. The cause of their ailments varied, from asphyxia and stroke to diabetes and heart failure. Yet, the common denominator in their untimely deaths was their exposure to the tomb's toxic environment. In light of these findings, the story of the Pharaoh's curse takes on a whole new dimension. It's not about spectral threats from beyond the grave, but about the very real dangers of radiation and the devastating effects it can have on the human body. In the end, the curse was not a supernatural phenomenon, but a case of radiation poisoning. The real curse was a silent, invisible killer, one that came not from the wrath of a disturbed pharaoh, but from the very earth itself. The findings of this study shed a new light on the mystery of the Pharaoh's curse. The implications of these findings are significant and far-reaching. They offer a compelling explanation to a century-old conundrum, and they also serve as a stark warning about the potential dangers of disturbing ancient tombs. For starters, the study suggests that the deaths associated with the opening of King Tutankhamun's tomb were not the result of some supernatural hex, but rather a very real and biological threat: radiation poisoning. This puts into perspective the hazards that can be associated with archaeological explorations, especially those involving sealed ancient structures. The tombs of the past, it seems, can harbor more than just historical artifacts and mummified remains. They can also be repositories of toxic substances and radioactive elements, as was likely the case with King Tutankhamun's burial chamber. But the implications don't end there. The study also underscores the necessity of further scientific investigation into other unexplained deaths related to archaeological discoveries. There may be other cursed tombs out there, where those who dared disturb the peace of the departed met with inexplicable and untimely ends. Are these instances of bad luck, as some would have us believe? Or are they, like the Pharaoh's curse, cases of biological hazards that we are yet to fully understand? Only rigorous scientific inquiry can answer these questions. Lastly, the findings also highlight the importance of respecting ancient burial sites. These places are not merely historical curiosities or sources of valuable artifacts. They are, above all, the final resting places of individuals who once walked this earth. To disturb these sites is to tamper with the dignity of the dead, and as the case of the Pharaoh's curse demonstrates, such actions can have deadly consequences. The Pharaoh's curse, then, is not a myth to be dismissed, but a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurk within ancient tombs. Let us remember this lesson as we continue to explore the remnants of our past, always with respect, caution, and a keen scientific eye.